There are two systems that can help pay for long-term care. Medicaid can help pay at home, in assisted living in Indiana, or in the nursing home on either side of the river. But the other system that can help pay is the veteran system. There are two main types of veterans benefits that we deal with as elder law attorneys. There would be disability compensation that would be service connected, having to do with an injury or illness that resulted from someone's service or that was made worse because of their service. And then there would be what's called non-service connected pension benefits. Those are really the ones that we deal with as elder law attorneys on a more regular basis. There are three types of pension. There's basic level of pension, there's housebound level of pension, and then the benefit that we try to attain most often is the aid and attendance benefit. So we want to talk about those. What are they worth and how do we qualify for them? As this chart shows, for the year 2021, we do have maximum monthly rates for each of those levels of pension benefits that the VA has set. So for the basic pension level, that's our lowest level, for a single veteran, he can get or she can get up to $1,160 of tax-free money at the basic pension level in pocket every month. For a veteran who's married, it's $1,520 per month. And for a surviving spouse, a widow or a widower of a veteran, it's $778 per month. Now, the middle level of pension, known as the housebound benefit, that is not when someone's bedbound, but when someone is not driving any longer, they've given up driving, they need help getting out of the house and to their appointments. For a single veteran, $1,418 per month is the most that they may receive at that level. For a married veteran, $1,778 per month. And then for a surviving spouse, $951 per month. That brings us to our highest level of pension benefit. It's the aid and attendance level. So we'll see that you have to meet financial criteria, care criteria, service criteria for this benefit. But for a single veteran, that can mean $1,936 per month tax-free in pocket to help pay for care. That is a lot of money that a lot of people, a lot of veterans don't even know is out there. For a married veteran, that rate is $2,295 per month. And then for a surviving spouse, so many people don't realize that there are surviving spouse benefits from the VA. That amount is $1,244 per month. For these pension benefits, any of those levels, whether it's basic or housebound or aid and attendance, you do have to meet a disability requirement, a service requirement, and then the financial requirements, which involve both income and assets. For disability, if the veteran is age 65 or older, or even if under age 65 but permanently and totally disabled in a nursing home or receiving Social Security disability, you will meet that disability requirement. The service requirement, the veteran had to serve at least 90 consecutive days active duty, right? If it's after Vietnam, then we're talking about 24 months consecutive active duty. And at least one of those days must be during a wartime period. Their discharge had to be something that is other than dishonorable. It could be honorable, general, medical, but not dishonorable. So 90 days active duty if we're talking about Korea, World War II, or Vietnam, 1 day during a wartime period. Didn't have to be injured, didn't have to be in combat, didn't have to be on the front lines, didn't even have to be deployed. Just serve during those wartime periods. And then for the financial criteria, they must meet the income criteria and the asset criteria. What the VA is going to do is look at their gross income. And if it's a single veteran, it's just his. But if it's a married veteran, then it's the couple's gross household income. Each month, they'll deduct from that the unreimbursed out-of-pocket medical expenses. If that's what they're left with, if what they're left with is under those amounts that we saw on that chart before, then they'll be able to draw a benefit from the VA. They also do look at the assets. They can have their home, they can have a vehicle, they can have 1 acre in addition to their home. Beyond that, they can only have $130,773 in assets. That is the figure for 2021. If they have taken assets out of their name in order to qualify for this benefit, they had to do it before October the 18th of 2018. After that date, they will be subject to a 3-year look-back period. much like the 5-year look-back period for Medicaid. That is, if they've transferred assets and those assets would have brought them above that $130,773 figure, then for those assets that would have brought them above that, they will receive a penalty if they transferred those assets within 3 years of applying for the veteran's benefit. So how does a widow or a widower qualify for this benefit? Well, the surviving spouse, number one, had to be married to the veteran at the time of the veteran's death. They couldn't have been divorced, right? So they had to be married to the veteran, and then they have to have not remarried after the veteran's death. The surviving spouse could be any age. We don't have that 65 years old component to it. And the spouse must have met the service requirement, and the surviving spouse must still meet the financial criteria. When we're talking about the second and third levels of pension, the housebound and the aid in attendance, for housebound, you have to meet all of those basic pension requirements that we mentioned, and you have to give up driving the housebound. For aid in attendance, in addition to the service requirement, the disability requirement, and the income and asset requirements, you have to meet a care requirement. So you have to need assistance. You have to need aid in attendance with at least one activity of daily living if you are at home and receiving your care, or with 2 of those activities if you're in a facility. Those activities would include help with dressing, with bathing, with feeding, which is not meal preparation, but actually feeding, with toileting or continence, and with transferring or adjusting a prosthesis. Here's an example of how that aid in attendance benefit would work. So here we have a couple. Bob and Mary were living at home, but Bob is age 70 and is a Vietnam War veteran. He began needing help with bathing and dressing. They moved to assisted living. They're paying $6,500 a month. Their income is $3,500 a month, and that leaves them $3,000 a month as a shortfall. They have $3,500 coming in, $6,500 going out. The VA aid in attendance benefit will pay them over $2,200, which would leave only around $750 to be funded from their savings. When you obtain the VA benefit in this way, it's going to help them to stretch their funds longer, to stay at that assisted living level longer, rather than having to advance to the nursing home just so they could get Medicaid to help pay for their care. Because remember, in Kentucky, Medicaid doesn't pay for assisted living. You can do asset protection planning if you're trying to get Medicaid benefits, but you can also do asset protection planning if you're trying to obtain these VA benefits. That's what elder law attorneys do. Now remember, ideally you want to work 5 years in advance for the Medicaid benefit or 3 years in advance for the VA. But understand that even if someone is in a crisis situation in the nursing home, about to go into the nursing home or other form of long-term care, usually asset protection can still help, and we can save some of the assets, just not as many as we could, and not in the ways that we would have been able to if we had worked in advance. How do you find a lawyer? If you want to come to Kentucky Elder Law for a free consultation, we would welcome that. If you need an elder law attorney in another state outside of Kentucky or Indiana, please check out the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, NAELA.org. That's NAELA.org. You can find there, you can look up any state, any city, and find elder law attorneys. I can't vouch for all of them, but that is a national foundation or organization that elder law attorneys are a part of. You also, if you're looking for veterans attorneys, you want to look for VA accredited attorneys. We cannot practice within the VA system if we have not obtained their accreditation. We have a few sheets for you to look at here that would just ask you questions about those foundation legal documents that we've talked about to see, have you put yourself and your loved ones in a good position to make sure that things can be handled the way that you want them to be handled at the time that you're needing someone to act on your behalf or after your passing. So for instance, this asks about the power of attorney. Do you have one that goes into effect immediately rather than requiring doctor's signatures or something else to spring it into effect? Is it durable and stays in effect after you become incapacitated? Have you named an alternate in case that first person can't act for you? Then it asks about the living will. Do you have one that looks like what they're used to seeing in the state where you're located and going to receive your care, be that Kentucky, Indiana, or someone else? For your will, do you have one that's up to date? Does it say what you want it to say? Does it have the right number of witnesses? Is it notarized so that they're not going to have to bring in someone to testify about the authenticity of your signature? Do you have it located in a fireproof place? Do you have the original? The court requires the original. You need to obtain that from your prior attorney if you don't have it. For your medical power of attorney or healthcare surrogate, do you have the HIPAA release in there so that your healthcare decision maker can get your medical records? Have you named an alternate and named only one person to serve in the first instance, but named a backup? Do you have a plan to plan for your life care needs? Do you have a plan to plan for your asset protection? You need a plan that's been prepared by an elder law attorney because we're going to be looking at all of those angles. Have you done things that might cause problems? Have you already transferred assets? That's okay. We can help walk you through those problems. Very often that's what we're doing, is cleaning things up for individuals. Do you have a revocable trust that you thought was going to protect your assets, but what you really need is an irrevocable trust?